So now what do I do? Well, I guess there's only one thing. There's something I'd like to know. Are you real? Can you feel?
Hi friends, I'm Prairie Vintage. My name's Linda. I'm an energy intuitive reader here on YouTube, and I use spirit and my intuition, the tarot, to communicate energies to you guys. Fabulous viewers. If you guys are new to this channel, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad you guys found me. Here I am. Here you are. I hope you guys stay. For those of you guys returning, I'm so blessed, so grateful to do your reading again today. Today's reading, we're looking at a current or a future soul connection that is pulling through your energy. Okay, so this could be a high-level soulmate. This could be a twin flame. This could be really anyone that has a significant impact in your spiritual journey or just the growth you have here in this lifetime and the dynamic between you and this person. Okay, so we'll be breaking it down as a you versus them, just so we can identify the energy between the two of you guys. And if you're not resonating with one side being your energy, then it most likely isn't going to be your pile. So you can check out another pile. Okay, we will be doing 4 options. The options are down here, which I'll hold up shortly. And these are the decks I'll be using for today's reading. Okay, for the Enneagram, we will be using the General Oracle and the Mystical Oracle and also the Love Oracle. And then these decks right here. So I'll put a link right here for those of you guys who are interested in charging these cards for future readings, or if you're a tarot reader and you like to take a look at some of these decks, then I do have a playlist where we open up these decks together. And like I said, you can energetically charge these for future reading here on this channel. So beautiful angels, without further ado, I will put the timestamps below and we'll put your options up, and then we will take you guys to your reading. All right, gorgeous angels. So for option 1, we have this guitar right here. Option number 2, we have this butterfly right here. Option number 3, we have this hummingbird right here. And this bluebird. For option number 4, we have this brass skeleton key. I don't know why I feel I have to make sounds with these things. Yeah, I'm feeling I have to make sounds with these things, okay? I don't know why, but maybe someone's auditory here. I don't know. So that's 1. This is 2. This is 3. And this is 4. That was weird. Okay, sit with this energy. I'm going to put that right here. And when you are done, locked in, then I will put the timestamp below there, and you can select from the timestamp. It'll take you directly to your pick. If you feel like you're neither side, A or B, then it's not your pile. Don't force it to fit, okay? The overall energy should be matching your energy. Now, you could resonate with both sides. If that's the case, it could signify that you and this person are mirroring and you have very similar energy signature, and it's difficult to tell whose is who. Okay, it could still be your pile, it's mirroring, or It could be you and your high self. So take that into consideration as well. Okay. And like I said, it doesn't have to be an intimate love reading. This could be a family member. This could be some high level soulmate that comes into your world, and soulmates don't necessarily have to be romantic. Okay. So sit with this energy, beautiful angels, and I will see you guys at your pick. Gorgeous angel, pile number 1, you guys picked the air freshener guitar that I was making noises with. And it could be for this group because guitars definitely make noise, music. So you guys could definitely be musically inclined, or the person here that we're picking up energetically. Okay, I was getting, and I'm going to mention it for all piles, it was like hearing impaired. Okay, so I don't know, or it could be somebody who's visually impaired as well. I don't know. I was getting some sort of visually or hearing impaired. Okay, so this could be in your pile or not. Now, we're looking at you versus a high-level soulmate, a twin flame, someone who is energetically impacting your lifetime. Okay, so destined to be in your world. Why that is, we're looking at the dynamic between you and this person as deep as we can sort of see. Okay, although I do have 4 piles and I don't want it to be 10 hours long, but it is what it is. I channel whatever it is, and when I feel it's done, it's done. Okay, if it's too long for you, go click on the little AI bot button that says ask, and I'll summarize some of this reading for you. All right, if you don't resonate with one side being you, it is most likely not your pile. There are 4 to choose from. Go to another pile. If it's not there, then this isn't your reading. Go check out another reading. Okay, so we'll do A versus B. And I have pre-shuffled these oracle cards, and I asked Spirit exactly this. Your future or current soul connection, and a look at you versus that person. Okay, so we have A, and then we have B, and then we have the shared energy between the two. Okay, so let's take a look. So we have the self, 29 for person A. We have secret relationship, 76 and 4, hidden relationship, forbidden affair, adultery, a fling, lover, mistress, unofficial couple. Type 4, the individualist emotional center between lack, lack and abundance. And then we have 103 and 4, origin, background, source, birth, family, ancestry, bloodline. Type 4, the individualist emotional center between lack and abundance. And we have existential crisis, 75 and 3. So disintegration of the mask, drop of motivation, burnout, identity crisis, lack of direction, uselessness of success. Type 3, the achiever emotional center between appearing and authenticity. Okay, for person B, we have the kiss, number 60. And we have the woman, number 3, consultant, partner, lover, wife, female companion. Type 3, the achiever emotional center between appearing and authenticity. And we have 62 and 8, domination, power relationships, aggressiveness, self-justice, manipulation, being an outlaw, authoritarianism. Type 8, the challenger instinctive center between strength and weakness. And we also have ignorance, 23 and 5, intellectual disability, lack of culture, nothingness, interior void, uneducation, social engagement. Type 5, the observer thinking center between interior and exterior. Character, ego level, ego's pitfall, stress level, and avoidance, ego level. And on this side, we have essence, growth level, dark night of the soul, stress level, and difficult event, stress level. So let's see the shared energy between these two. We have the peacock's tail, number 55. So 55 is a master number. Change is the only constant, divinely orchestrated change. And we have letting go. And we have impatience. And we have past. 13 and 4, yesterday, memory, ended story, old times, remembrance. Type 4, the individualist emotional center between lack and abundance with temporality, ego level. And we have inner call, ego level. 18, self-awareness, asserting versus staying calm. taking initiatives, express needs, determination, making choices, emotional expression. Type 9, the peacemaker, instinctive center between forgetting and asserting oneself with the number 9. Okay, so I'm going to put this like this, and then I will start to channel what this is once I sit with this energy long enough for me to channel what this is about, okay? Let me get my wand. I do feel like I need to move it slightly over. Okay. You guys can skip ahead. I need to see it. Okay. Okay. This is a really fascinating energy here for me to read. So hopefully this becomes clear to you guys by the end, but give it time to develop here, because this might be a deep channel that comes through kind of all together at the end type thing, okay? This could be anyone, a future person you haven't connected with, to someone that's in your world right now. Don't force it to be someone that you think it is, because it's going to pull through as a soul connection that's significant in your world. This could be a family member, a lover, anyone, a friend, okay? So let spirit sort of pull through whoever this is for you so that you get some clarity around this connection. Okay, now if you don't resonate with A or B, then this isn't your pile. You need to resonate with one side being your energy here. Okay, so person A we'll call the self, and we'll call person B the kiss. So it makes it sort of a little bit easier, okay? So I feel like the self person here has a lot invested in their upbringing, is really what's pulling through here. Okay, now this could definitely be through many lifetimes of stuff that has been energetically imprinted on this person's energy body. Okay, but also it manifests in this lifetime. So how you would know is that for the self person here has a journey in front of them in creating their own sort of independent self of apart from their family and their upbringing and this sort of an energy here, because this person is enmeshed in some capacity. Okay, and I don't feel like it's with one specific parental figure, as I feel it is their whole sense of self and their purpose and their identity is sort of really pegged to that family origin. Okay, and so this connection is coming through to give, and we'll get into sort of the dynamics, but to give the self person a look at themselves that is separate from seeing themselves as part of a unit or a functioning family situation here. Okay, and I feel like this person has a difficult time seeing themselves apart from that in which they've always sort of identified with. So they've identified as that family structure. Okay, so this could be somebody also who got married very young, and they got married young, and so therefore it's like the only version of themselves that they identify with is like as part of a unit. And I do feel like this person has been confronted by this connection to unravel themselves from that in which they're thought that they were a part of and identifying with as who they are, which is not, and identifying who they actually are. So coming up with their own understanding of their desires, what they want, who they're about, and seeing themselves as valuable without that. Because I feel like this person might feel like their value relies on how they can function within another sort of group or something like this, you know? It gives them a sense of purpose because the self alone might not find value in the self. And so there seems to be this way of engagement that this person has where the truest versions of themselves are obviously still within them, and it reaches out to get fulfilled in different ways that I feel this person might feel ashamed of. And I feel like this person might feel like they cannot be their full self in experiencing authentic relationships and stuff. And it's not because other people are sort of judging them in some way, but because this person is carries a lot of understandings of how they should be and what they shouldn't do, you know? And so I feel like this person is like they want to keep that intimate part of themselves sort of hidden from or separate from the world that they sort of know, but they can't deny or suppress that part of themselves. Okay. And so I don't know this dynamic just yet. We're going to see, but I feel like there's something about this person, the self person, having to connect to all of themselves and seeing the essence, the beauty, and the good and bad as sort of a whole self here and put themselves sort of together, because I do feel like this person is in fragmented parts here. Okay. And I also feel like this person, even if they are set up in their world, like have a job or have a functioning family unit or seem to be functioning, there is this lackluster because I do feel like this person isn't in line with doing what it is that their heart truly is calling to do. So this person is healing this about themselves through this connection, and this is why this connection has sort of presented itself. And it's broadening this person's understanding of themselves and relationship and just seeing the whole dynamic of the universe completely different than maybe how they have been, which is very rewarding, but it could also be very overwhelming for this person. So I do feel like this connection is allowing this person to see everything differently about themselves, about the universe, about dynamics and how they engage. And it's broadening this person's overall look in the universe. We'll get back to this person. Person B with the kiss here. I feel like person B is drawn to person A because of that strength that they see in the self's power when it comes to group or family. There's some form of like strength that comes through this, which I feel the kiss might have not have experienced, you know, like a backing of a family or like support of a unit that functions. And so it could definitely be that the kiss person here is wanting to be taken in by it's kind of like giving off like I don't know if this is the right word, okay, but it's like, you know, when you get initiated into a gang of sorts, it's like the gang makes you feel a certain way because they accept you, and even if the gang is like you know, doing the bad things, it's like, but at least there's some form of an acceptance and a recognition. And so I feel like the KISS person longs to have connection in this sort of a way. So they could definitely come from either a broken home or just a family unit that was not as invested maybe in their physical, emotional growth in some capacity here. And I do feel like the KISS person could be very blinded here. And I feel like the blinding here is they're very narrow in their idea of what's going to fulfill them. And so this is sort of their the cause of their action and all that they sort of see, and the driver of what they do. Because I feel this person is fulfilling this sort of a hole within self that needs to be filled according to them. Okay, and so I also feel like this person is meeting with this self person in order for them to also change how they are seeing themselves in connection with other and community, and what it is that they are thinking is like lacking, or like just seeing themselves differently from the perspective that there is nothing sort of lacking here. I feel like both of these people come from challenging pasts, people, situations, family units, okay, that have dictated these people's perspective on life. And so there is this need to undo themselves from that thought process and those paradigms and those situations which have created both of these people and how they go about their world. And I do feel like they both feel sort of misunderstood by each other in some capacity. And because they both speak sort of opposite languages when it comes to upbringing and when it comes to the love language of how they sort of feel full and how they feel seen and how they feel supported. And they're being called to work together so that they can develop and see the other side of themselves that has been sort of not online, if you will. It's like there's a part of the KISS person here that feels like it's been missing, and that some situation is going to bring this to the KISS and make them feel welcome and whole and make them feel the stuff that they haven't felt here. And so it is very sort of surface as well. It feels almost like it's show me you love me, you know? It's like, just show me, like just be there. And it's like, well, connection's much deeper than just being there. But it's like, it's an unhealthy sort of dynamic here, because sometimes love is shown through many different ways. But I do feel like the KISS person here is really hung up on show me physically here, even if there's no truth or depth or anything else, because this person has their blinders on of what they think when someone's there supporting them or loving them, what it looks like. And so it could fall very flat, because just having someone sort of physically be in the presence doesn't necessarily heal the thing, or doesn't necessarily support this person in growth. And so I feel like there is a frustration in seeing the self person is not understanding that that's their need, And so I do feel like both of these people are going to take quite some time to understand each other and press each other's buttons in some way, and also not to look at the other person sort of as a riddle so much, because I feel like there's a lot of confusion when it comes to looking at each other. There's like speaking two different sort of languages here, and then there's frustration about this, and it's like that other person is not getting it, So both these people are being called to find their authenticity, but by sort of identifying that in which has been creating their suffering, or I guess their dynamic in relationship that has been creating that difficult energy that they've been in. It seems very, I don't know. It seems very, I don't know here, I don't necessarily know that this is like a lover's sort of dynamic, like lovers is in like intimate romantic. It kind of almost feels like person B seems like the scorned child is kind of what it seems like, and person A is having to sort of relate with this child. Okay, now I'm saying child just because I feel like there's a lack of experience maybe here with B, and I feel with A there's like an experience that sort of is cemented here, dictating this person's way of being that isn't necessarily supposed to be cemented. It has to be sort of undone. And so this does feel like a child parent sort of thing, where it's like someone coming online here with something that challenges person A, and that person A must sort of go through. But it's not necessarily that B is wrong or right, but that the way person B is sort of engaged here is like right in any means, or deep in any means here. I feel like person A is a more experienced, deep soul. But I feel like that could be creating the challenge here in this dynamic because of all of this sort of experience and understanding, but forgetting certain things that they have to come back to and remember in order to engage differently here, so that their soul can learn next lessons and see things that maybe the self person has learned in the past in some way, but they need to get back to it, is what it feels like here. I feel like person A, it does feel almost like parent, because I do feel like person A almost feels like dealing with person B is like heavy in some way, But I do feel it's heavy because person A is being shown something that they're having to deal with. And so if we could just not do it, it'd be a lot easier, So it does feel like a family member that we can't just like not deal with. And so both these people are sort of forced to deal with these things. I feel like person B puts a lot of weight on their love language of like physical. Compassion comes from how you can show me physically, and I need to get this from someone. And most likely that someone is person A. And so it could be very draining for A to be like a giving of themselves in some way to fill this void that person B seems to not be able to fill. And I do feel like the pain could be so great here from the abyss or this missing piece that person B feels like they'll get it at any cost or do whatever here to attain that in which they feel they're missing. Interesting. Let me pull the tarot and see what we see regarding this connection. Spirit, for pile number 1, the self versus the kiss, A versus B. Is there anything here that needs to be communicated regarding this dynamic? So we have the sun in reverse. So the truth of seeing ourselves sort of clearly is the whole reason these two have been sort of brought together here. So there is something within self that needs to be seen, and it's like where it is that I find my happiness. Because person A, like I said, there's a true version of them that has been suppressed, sort of like as being a sacrifice to toe the line in some way. And so they can't experience true deep happiness when they keep defaulting to that sort of other world. And so they need to admit to themselves and experience things outside of the units that will make them happy. And then where person B feels like it's not warm and sunlight, and unless someone else shines their light on them, because I do feel that they're sort of in this dark place. It's like I need someone physically here to show me and create happiness for me and warmth for me and physically be here for me. It's like, but there's a deeper happiness that it needs to be sort of experienced outside of the physical here. And so these paradigms are falling away or needing to fall away when these two sort of come together, because I feel like they're going to come together when they're not seeing that yet and they're not fully happy. The Knight of Swords. So, like I said, I think there is tension between these two. And it's only because both of these two haven't found happiness independently. And so they're going to be called to let go by confronting or dealing with or severing anything that was resulting in this inability to harbor their own sunlight within them, their own warmth, their own happiness, their own clarity. And this has to sort of be generated independently here. And it is as a result of these two sort of being destined to come together in some way, because I don't feel like these two are going to come together and suddenly be each other's sort of sunlight or whatever. Although in a way they're each other's sort of sunlight, because they're now being called to confront that part of self. Page of Pentacles, before they can, and that's in reverse, before they can explore each other somehow further in any way here that's going to be authentic and real. It's sort of on ice here in some way. So let's see, why is the sun in reverse here? So we have Leo energy. This could even be talking about some form of an ego death. And I do feel here with existential crisis and the disintegration of the mask, it's like the identity that I am this family unit, or that I'm like identifying as something that's not necessarily me. I mean, same with this KISS person, because I do feel like the ego here with the KISS person would be this identity that the KISS creates, that they are this version of them that is without in some way, and that's not necessarily true. Okay, the Fool in reverse, Aquarius energy. It's like both these people can't connect to the inner child, that in which they could just be themselves, have fun, like be themselves, say what they mean, do what they say, and feel joy. There's a lot of conflict. Okay, there's a lot of conflict here, inner turmoil, and having to sort through those situations that they're still carrying within themselves, that other people might have made them believe about themselves, that they need to confront. And I feel like both of these people can't just relax and be and have fun. That's what it really feels like here. And so this dynamic is like cracking this open in some way. 2 swords in reverse and the 6 of wands. And under the 6 of wands is the Ace of Swords in reverse. So both of these people have a shell, and they truly believe the shell of the version of themselves in relationship and what that should look like, and how others sort of engage with me and tell me I'm of value or see me as someone that is successful when it comes to how I relate and how I engage and the involvement in relationship. And it is based on a paradigm that I have constructed that isn't necessarily the truest version of me. And so therefore, I can never really fully feel accepted and welcomed in my universe, as long as I have to upkeep a version of me that's really not me. And so the KISS person cannot ever feel fully loved when they can't just allow themselves to sort of play and be, and then be loved for that version. It's like, I must have a certain sort of experience given to me here first, and then that is me winning at relationship, or then that means it's checked off something here. But it's not really truthfully bringing happiness when we fulfill the shell of what we think is us, or that we think is the happiness. There'll forever be sort of an underlying layer that is calling to be seen and loved and reached out. And I think that's what this whole dynamic is sort of bringing out in both of these people, is like to confront that within themselves. And so I do feel like there is a block between these two people in harmony, and a block between these two people until they individually crack through their own masks and egos and shadows and what they identify as winning in a connection, or success in a connection, or validation in a connection, or appreciation in a connection, because right now it's inauthentic. And I feel this is for both parties here. It feels quite superficial, or they both sort of seem very superficial. Now, this doesn't mean that they are like knowing that they're being superficial in any way. And so they don't really understand each other because they're not being each other. Like they're not being themselves, their truest version of self. I do feel like A seems a little more, like I said, evolved here, and I do feel they're more in tune with spirituality in a way here, where they can connect to the divine to help process a lot of this ego shattering. And I do feel like them connecting with the kiss might have created this sort of shattering of the false self. And we must shatter the false self in order for us to see the true self that's under that. And so I do feel like that's exactly why these two are sort of coming together here, so that they could see the truth of who they are first. And they must confront that first. Some of you guys might have been pulled to pile 2 as well here, because I am feeling, even though I didn't do 2, I'm seeing this butterfly is really standing out, and I think 2 is butterfly. I feel like there is a lot missing from person B. Missing as in like it's so shallow, it feels here, you know? It's like seeing a partner as just filling a spot, and that's it. Like sitting there, or like checking off a box. And that's how they sort of see partner. And then it's like, okay. But it's like, no. And it could be that, I don't know, it almost feels like kind of giving off like an energy of the woman should just sit there, smile and nod and do what it is that the man needs, sort of thing, you know? But it doesn't have to be that gender, because I was feeling at the beginning this could definitely be flipped as someone who's just like wants a partner to be there in physical form. That's it. Like that's all I'm getting here is physical form. Yeah. And so it could be hurtful, you know, because A could, like, if it is for some of you guys romantic or sexual here in some way, it's like be physically sort of used by person B, but it's not that B is just like maniacally sort of sneakily sort of just using A for physical sex or anything like this, but it feels this way because there's nothing deeper here. And if this is like parental, it just seems like, hey, parents, just like give me money, you know, or just like be there for me, or just like you're my dad, or you're my mom, you know, or you're my sibling, like, and then it stops short. There is no, there's nothing beyond this. And it's not because this person, this person is just like this, is sort of what I'm seeing here. And so there needs to be this new understanding that's brought about. Yeah. It's what it is. 9 of Wands in reverse. It's like the struggle that has been the past experience is dictating the engagement of this connection. And until the past is actually seen with real eyes and conscious awareness, to have the self-awareness, then the true engagement can happen between these two, so they could speak the same language and work on seeing things. So these two are brought together to sort of highlight these two different worlds, you know? But I feel like there's completely different here. And I feel like the kiss is so, I don't even know the right words to use it if I gotta be completely like articulate about it. It's like it just feels so surface in some way, and forced and physical. Forced, physical, surface. All right, well, I feel I'm missing a whole bunch here, so I don't know whose is this going to resonate with, but I will close this reading out with the final sort of look. Saw the devil there, Capricorn energy. Let's see, Spirit, for these two. Okay, so if this isn't someone you know, it definitely could be somebody you're going to be engaged with. And I feel like the reason why this is so significant here is because the world opens up by these two sort of connecting, you know? And I do feel like the sun does come for both of these as a result of knowing each other. But the process of where they're at when they engage, when they first meet, I think is a big wow. Like it's requiring both of them to have a massive transformation here. Okay, so we have Aries, Scorpio, Taurus, and Libra, Virgo, Cancer. Oops, it's a big mess here. And I don't know if I said Leo and Sagittarius and Aquarius. So 6 of Wands in reverse. Spirit, what more do we need to know? Page of Cups. The ego must sort of be shed here. The false self. The 9 of Cups, emotional fulfillment. There's that sun that was missing. It's like the true emotional happiness that they're craving. The Wheel of Fortune in reverse. Why is the Page of Cups here? What are we missing in regards to the dynamic between A and B? Knight of Cups in reverse, and then the 2 of Wands in reverse, and then the bottom of the deck, 10 of Cups, and Justice under that in reverse, and the Hangman. Pisces, Libra. Okay. So interesting, because exactly this, the change of perspective, seeing things completely different than how they've normally seen it. It's like their worlds are completely different. It's like understanding B gives A perspective, and it's completely different than what they've experienced. I feel like they're both experiencing complete different worlds. And so when they come together, it's like the Russians going to Japan, like they don't understand each other at all. And it's like they're forced to sort of understand each other's perspective so that they can broaden how they see themselves in the world. But I feel like these two are highly unregulated here in a way that could harmoniously come together at first until they challenge themselves or see their own egoic way. And then there is this finally connecting to that in which they haven't been able to see or connect to as a result of sharing each other's presence, that allows them to experience emotional fulfillment from a deeper place, because it's very superficial and physical here as a box checking action motion. That's what it feels like. It's like just be emotion and an action here. It's like, what? You know, and it's like a heavy sort of deliverance. I don't know what that means. Like a heavy hand deliverance here of how it's going to happen, and black and white way of it then checking off the box for me. And over here, it just feels like who are you? Aside from all of that history, who are you, you know? And then it's like, I can't find my truest happiness when I am living for everyone else or under everyone else's sort of a story of who I actually am. It must fall. And then only when I can truly be independent and happy for self in a way here, because I've confronted that in which I'm needing to see and look through, then I could be with other. And I think these two are karmically brought together to crack this open. And I do feel like this connection could be very stuck in manifesting a 10 cups, harmony, whatever, coming together, balance, until these two sort of go through this process. And I also feel like there's an inability for these two people to authentically, purely connect on an emotional way that's true. It's very stunted and stopped until this gets seen through and worked through. It's like there is no progression here. There is no exploration or further revelations between these two. And it could even be they come together to do this thing, and then the buck stops there. It's like now they must go and find their happiness in the world because they've been shown what their happiness isn't as a result of seeing through some illusion or some egoic version of themselves. And I don't know, are they to come together to create this 10 cups or just go their separate ways? I feel like there is definitely a karmic agreement of sorts to see beyond what is challenging both of these people, getting in the way of their happiness. And like I said, it's like a true, deep happiness that can only come to the authentic self. But the self must be realized. They must not be engaged in the world as the false self or that identity. Otherwise, it's not deeply fulfilling. People are appreciating and loving them as a result of the mask that they're wearing. I feel like person B, like I said, is wanting a companion of sorts to just check a box or fill something here. But it's like, no, like, I don't know that they believe in that a companion can bring them happiness because it hasn't maybe been their experience, or maybe they just understood society to say, oh, you just have a partner, or a boyfriend, or a girlfriend, or a wife, or a husband, or a father, and that's a role, or a mother. Like it's a role. It's a role a person plays, but they have no bearing in my happiness. They have no bearing in anything other than just filling that sort of physical space and time. Like what? Like I don't even understand. It's very difficult for me to read this energy, you guys. I don't know who's going to resonate with this pile. It seems very, I don't know, whatever. You guys are here, obviously. If you listen to this, then this must have some form of resonance to what you're experiencing. Or, like I said, it could be a future person that comes in here, So I still feel unfinished here. So I'm just going to see Spirit. Is there anything I'm missing? And we'll close this out. What am I missing here for pile number 1? It's the same. I'm not feeling like it's all about opening the heart space and shedding the false self. That's what this is talking about. So that you can experience joy, true happiness, clarity about who you truly are, what truly makes you happy. And I feel like it could definitely be that these two bring each other deep, 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 deep happiness when they're able to be their authentic self and shed the false self or the ideas of who they have been and think that they are. And so there's a true innocence that comes through here. But like I said, it could definitely be a child and a parent or familial in some way, It's like, how can we harmonize and be truly happy here? It's like this parent might need to relate to this child and have child eyes here, But if it's a lover's sort of a relationship, it's like both these people needs to be purely themselves. Like their inner child must come out and trust that they could be their inner child here and experience love for the first time, I feel, in this lifetime, and let go of all the egoic stories, identities of how they're perceiving themselves to have to carry in order to be successful or then to find that superficial happiness, because it would never bring them happiness. It would just check off some sort of superficial happiness, if that makes any sense. Yeah, and then the Two of Swords. And so I feel like there is this need to deal with this. Otherwise, there is a stalemate in growth when it comes to spirituality, when it comes to both these people moving forward in their world, however that looks like. And so we were seeing the Knight of Swords, which is like taking one of these swords to confront the thing. And I think both these people are being asked, because 2 swords here, to pick up their own sword. And are they going to confront that individually so that they could see clearly and trust that their innocent self could be experienced? But I don't think either of these have found that inner child. I don't think either of these know what the inner child even looks like or feels like, because I don't think they've been able to do it or be it because of the guard that they're wearing, you know, the identity that they're wearing. So they could start making different choices once they are in that energy, embodying that innocent, natural self that wants to come through. But as long as they're not in that energy, they will continue to make decisions and choices in their world that is not feeling fulfilled, that is checking off a box, and is creating suffering in their world. But I do feel, as a result of this connection, like I said, the self person here is, I think, the one that's sort of cracking this open. You know, they're cracking it open here. They're on their way to seeing this or connecting to the divine about this. They're conferring with the divine about like this whole spiritual side, this growth, you know? And it could be like, how do I deal with this person B, or what do I do with B, or like, what's the thing? And I think they're being shown. So this is what I feel like this reading is about, pile number 1. I hope this resonated for you, and I will see you guys at the next one. Bye-bye. Pile 1, I'm inserting this because it came to me that this could potentially be, because this really had me perplexed, like a loveless marriage is sort of what it seems. And it does seem like it might be coming from one perspective. So it could be coming from yours. Like, let's say you're the self person. Okay, you could be involved with this kiss person, and this kiss person might just seem like they're not doing it for you. They're just sort of checking a box. And this self person might be really ingrained in what they shared in the past. They might have a history. Like I said, it might be a marriage that happened when the self person was really young. Maybe they were married to the kiss person, you know, and understood them in a certain way. But the kiss person has grown very sort of detached, doing motions. There seems to be a lot missing here. It's more like just this sort of a not doing it for the self person, but the self person is enmeshed with this kiss person, and they're enmeshed to the point where they're not understanding their own identity outside of their connection that they might have shared with the kiss. They could have created a family. They could have been together for a very long time. It's like the self person's now being called to be independent, potentially from this kiss person, and is having to untangle themselves because this kiss person, like I said, does seem to be not doing it, hasn't been doing it in the world that they've been in. It's more about this sort of a surface thing. Now, like I said, this is about a current soulmate or future soulmate, and this could be a very significant person in your world if you resonate. Like I said, I'm seeing it as you being maybe this self person, you know, but you could flip the role, and the soulmate would be your first mate or your husband, your wife, your first person here who is pretty dry, I feel, you know, and is just sort of doing motions. That's what it really seems like. Okay. And so these two are now potentially on an independent sort of journey from each other to go explore outside, because everything that they were sort of needing to learn from each other has now brought them to the point where they're having to expand. Okay, so you could see it this way as well. I just wanted to interject that sort of reading, even though I'm sure if you guys clicked away, you probably weren't seeing it this way. Okay, but this could definitely be an energy of something you're currently in, or a situation in which you've grown out of, a past lover or something like this. All right. So pile one, thanks again, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Bye-bye. Pile number 2, you guys picked the butterfly here, and we're looking at a current or a future significant soul connection between you and whoever this person is. Maybe this is a current or, like I said, a future person. So be open to who this could be, because it might be someone you're not expecting to see, but someone who has a great impact on your lifetime here. Okay, this doesn't have to be a romantic love relationship. Could be a parent, could be a sibling, could be a best friend, could be really just someone who is going to or has greatly impacted your world. Okay, so you'll have to resonate with either A or B being your energy. And if you resonate with both sides, it could mean that you and this person are mirroring each other. Okay, or it could be two aspects of yourself for sure, if that comes through that way as well. All right, so let's take a look. Person A, and then we have person B, and then we have the shared energy here. So let's take a look. Person A has 21, the mystic, and the friend, acquaintance, confidant, buddy, ally, friend, and intimate. Type 1, the perfectionist, instinctive center between control and letting go. Number 1, character, ego level. And then we have number 19 and 1, avoidance, ego level, anger, losing control, annoying, pleasure, mistaking, impulsiveness, and personal desires. Type 1, the perfectionist, instinctive center between control and letting go. Again. And we have healing, 89 and 8, mystical experience, Kundalini awakening, deep forgiveness, miracle, divine justice, energy release, submission to the divine. Type 8, the challenger, instinctive center between strength and weakness, with mystical experience, growth level. And then for person B, we have the mentor. Oh my goodness, the mystic and the mentor. This is crazy. Number 6. And then we have 77 and 5, loneliness, withdrawal, dropout, isolation, exile, solitude, and abandonment. Type 5, the observer, thinking center between interior and exterior, difficult stress level. And then we have, oh my goodness, you guys, look at anger. There's 2 angers in this deck. One in avoidance and one in sin. That's interesting. So sin, ego level, anger, aggressiveness, irritability, judgment, criticism, bitterness, and conviction. Type 1, the perfectionist, instinctive center between control and letting go. And then we have the truth. 32 and 5. It says limitations of knowledge, relationship life, philosophy, emotional life, why to understand, physical embodiment. Type 5, the observer, thinking center between interior and exterior. Quest for answers, ego level. All right. Interesting. Shared energy, we have Pluto. My goodness. And we have waiting. And we have creation. All the silver energy coming through. And then we have mystical love, 105 and 6. Confident love, faith in love, divine love, pious love, fervent love, and spiritual love. Type 6, the loyalist, thinking center between mistrust and trust. And it says healthy love, growth level. And then we have 38 and 2, active listening, time for yourself, gratitude diary, soft yoga, self-compassion, positive assertions, conscious breathing. Type 2, the helper, emotional center between giving and receiving, with spiritual practice, ego level. Okay. Let's do this. And then let me channel this. You guys can skip ahead as I gather this energy here so I can make sense of this. All right. Sorry, I just want to see which cards I'm pulling from. All right. I'll cover this up. Okay. Beautiful angel pile number 2. Very fascinating, the reading so far today. Okay. I'm going to peel it back, so it might not become very clear until sort of near the end, because sometimes we don't get all the messages right away, and there's lots of people tapping in here. So I'm going to call person A the mystic and person B the mentor, and you're going to either resonate with the mystic or the mentor. Okay, and you could be mirroring on both sides here, but one's going to be predominantly your energy. Otherwise, this isn't your pile, and you can go check out another pile, okay? I do feel a lot of you guys might be this mentor person, but anyway. So the mystic person here, it is very healing, okay? Very, very healing, and interesting that we have this butterfly. Well, we also have wings here, but butterfly here, okay? I do feel as though the mystic person is somebody here who is on a big purpose in this lifetime, okay? I mean, we're all here for a purpose, but this purpose is when the mystic person transforms into their highest potential in this lifetime that they could possibly sort of transform into throughout a process, okay? And this process would require the mystic to work through a lot of shadow, okay, which I do feel these two have been brought together to work through their shadows, deepest fears, and any sort of thing that's hidden within them that is needing to be addressed and dealt with, okay? Now, the mystic here, I do feel, is somebody who might be misunderstood, and I feel like they're misunderstood here when it comes to like being profoundly seen and understood on a deep level. And so they've been able to sort of cope with or develop some form of way of engagement that has become their way of seeing themselves based on their experience, because I do feel like this person has and not really had anyone sort of dive in deep with them, if that makes sense, or get to know them on a very deep, deep level. And so I do feel like the mystic is definitely on a soul purpose journey here, individual on their own, okay? And it could have been triggered by this connection with this healing card. And so this is saying a Kundalini awakening, which is a process of an awakening, a spiritual awakening, okay? But they're not synonymous here. And there is a lot of stuff coming to the surface that the mystic is having to work through, like forgiveness of self, experience, and other, and releasing of energy so that they could transform into this highest potential. Working through a lot of anger, okay? But anger is sort of the bucket, but there's different sort of things that fall into this anger. Here it says losing control, annoying, okay, pleasure even, mistaking impulsiveness and personal desires, because I do feel like the mystic has been able to cope with a lot of their Pluto energy by maybe seeking distraction through pleasure and potentially misidentified what pleasure means, because I do feel like the mystic has not been able to dive in deep with other to the point where there's feeling seen and understood and fully feeling like they could get pleasure and fulfillment from engagement and connection. So they could develop in their shadow, or because of the shadow, they could develop unhealthy ways of coping, which could have manifest as addictions, distractions, and been very sidetracked. This is kind of what it seems like here, you know? This could be somebody who has a lot of friends. This could be somebody here who can't go from a 3 cups to a 2 cups sort of scenario. meaning they keep things superficial or light, or just they have a lot of friends, but not really any deep connections. Okay, and I do feel like the mystic might even have an energy of not realizing that they're harboring or holding a form of anger, and identifying with that as some sort of way that they are accepting the fact that they might feel like they'll have to go it alone or be it alone or whatever they have been doing here. So the purpose of the mentor and the mystic have been brought together in order to heal this wound in the mystic, and also for the mystic to believe in miracles, because I do feel like the mystic has already accepted some form of a defeat. Like, I will never find someone, or no one will ever be to the point where they understand me. Okay. And so the universe is sort of bringing these two together so that the mystic can see that there is a potential for there to be an individual who could understand and get this mystic. I think this mystic also has great healing power through way of touch. Okay. They can heal people here. I don't think they know this. And I don't think that it is something that is fully developed or seen or understood until the mystic sort of reaches their highest potential state. And so I do feel this is a connection of enlightenment, meaning the highest potential we could possibly be in this lifetime is shown to us through a higher state of consciousness, through an awareness. So they could definitely both have Kundalini awakenings, okay, or spiritual awakenings, or bring out an awakening within each other. But for sure, I'm seeing it here on the mystic side. And I do feel like, like this mystic seems like the type of person who would be sort of easy to get along with, like they don't seem like they would be difficult or challenging in any sort of way. But at the same time, it's like they don't feel seen in those environments or those friendships, because they do seem fairly shallow in some way. And I don't feel like the mystic understands maybe that it is their wound that's actually not allowing anyone to sort of get closer, see their essence. And I don't think the mystic sees their purest essence either here. I think the mystic does put a lot of weight on their community and friends, and I think that the mystic might even prop these people up, like being support for this mystic, like they're I don't know, like they hold greater roles than they actually do, is kind of how it's coming through. Like the friends that I have are the greatest thing ever, and they like identify or see themselves through those relationships, and also thinking that those are like the highest potential of relationship that they could cultivate, which is an untruth here. I do feel like the mystic could be quite guarded, and in fact is probably guarded when the mentor sort of comes into the mystic's world. There could be a friendship that develops between these two instantly. In fact, they could be friends for a very long time, but I am feeling that there's an awakening happening. And so it doesn't have to necessarily be romantic, although I am feeling it this way for this pile. It does seem like there's friends first, there's getting to know each other first. There's a guardedness here about the mystic, not allowing anyone sort of to get closer than that in which they keep their friends at. But I do feel like the mystic would do anything for their friends. So it's almost like the mystic has a deep sort of allegiance, what's it called, to their friends, and they would go to the depths in that regard for their friends, their buddies, or whatever. But at the same time, it's like it's falling short for the mystic. And I think this sort of creates some form of shadow of resentment in some form, because it's like when I need someone to go the depths with me, I'm sort of left on my own. And so I don't think that the mystic realizes that people could potentially be there for them in sort of all circumstances in some way, because I feel like the mystic has been let down and disappointed a lot, and now they just carry a belief that that is what friendship is, and that's the depth of it. But the mystic is able to get very deep, and so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense here why they would be able to sort of carry the weight of friendships on a deeper level when it comes to like being of service or investing in friendship. That's what I mean. But when it comes to letting someone in, I feel the mystic here is like guarded in some way, and fearful of getting disappointed. And so they're generating this in which they're unsatisfied with. Okay, and so I do feel like they might have, like I said, a friend group, they might like to party a lot or thrill seek a lot. There's a lot of this going on. I do feel like this person might have a lot of pent up energy within them. So they could be somebody who likes to move fast or talk fast, or I don't know, like to fight. I'm seeing a lot of movement. I don't know, maybe it's karate, or maybe it's like running, or maybe it's like moshing, or maybe it's I don't know. There's a lot of pent up energy here with this mystic. Okay. And so now we see the mentor, and I feel like the mentor is definitely a mentor in their own right, in their world, but I feel like it's also representing their dynamic here within this connection, because I do feel like the mentor is sort of trying to set some sort of example, or trying to guide or lead this dynamic to some place, maybe higher, better, or more healed, or more ascended, because there might be an understanding that there is this shadow, because I do feel like these two could see each other's shadows. And so the mentor might get very frustrated with the mystic's shadow, because there's a defensiveness in not letting this mentor sort of give and receive within the depths of the ability to share on a deeper level. And so I feel like the mentor does feel sort of shut out and could feel quite lonely. Although I do feel there's a strong bond of friendship. And I do feel like the shadows here that are being highlighted are needing both of these to be in the present moment and listen to each other, despite the shadows, despite what it is that the other isn't able to do in the current moment. Because I do feel like the mystic has that shadow we talked about, and instead of this mentor getting frustrated or annoyed or seeming as though it's shutting the mentor out, there's a need for the mentor to seek a greater level of sort of truth as to what is truly sort of happening here in this dynamic, that the mentor isn't necessarily the one that's being rejected here, although they are experiencing being shut out, like I said, and maybe feeling the rejection and feeling abandoned. So there's a truth that the mentor is on. I feel like the mentor is definitely also transmuting a lot of the shadow that's been brought about these two, and having to rise above and ascend and see greater truths that maybe haven't been as easy for the mentor to see in situations. And I think as a result of this connection, this mentor person becomes very wise through the experience. I think there's a lot of lessons that this connection is showing this mentor person. And as we know, a teacher learns as much from the student as the student is learning from the teacher. And so although this is a mentor sort of a role, it's because I feel this mentor might have better experience, a more in-depth sort of thorough experience when it comes to connecting, relationship, being maybe more in an energy of a one-on-one that makes sense. And although the mystic might have a lot of friends or people or something, there's something that hasn't been experienced by the mystic, such as a 2 cups or an in-depth sort of connection. Whereas I feel the mentor has experienced something like this, or at least understands on some level what it should sort of flow like when there is blocks, or when they're being shut out, or when they can't explore the depths of someone because the someone could be very wounded or guarded. And so I do feel like there is a lot of waiting around for healing to sort of happen. And I do feel like the mentor is learning, ascending wisdom, becoming more wise throughout the period of this connection. And I feel like, although it seems like it's a waiting, it's really, there's a movement within the mentor's energy body that's like growth within self. So there is movement, although there's not a moving together, because I feel like the waiting is like for these two to actually be in sync. Because I do feel like the bulk of the healing of the shadow is sitting with the mystic. Because I do feel like the mentor's shadow could have been one of having to overcome their understanding, that they might have connected with feeling shut out by the mystic or any individual that could behave sort of in this shadowy way as a result of this mentor's actions and taking it personal. And so this shadow part, I feel, has been healed or is being transmuted. And any sort of bitterness, resentments, or anger that the mentor has been feeling, and maybe even criticizing this mystic or putting judgment on the mystic, has been something that the mentor has had to work through to see a greater level of truth. And the greater level of truth here is actually a higher perspective, that their value and that the connection could still, well, their value isn't a reflection of the mystic's shadow, and that this connection is something that can happen in this present moment by being very active in being present and conscious, and how much energy and effort is given in the present moment rather than energy given to judgments and anger and beliefs that are lower vibration. So I do feel like the mentor is learning a lot about their authenticity, is learning a lot about deeper truths of what relationship could look like for them and how they are in relationship. Because I think when they entered this dynamic, they had one understanding of relationship or of themselves or what a other would present, that I feel might have been not necessarily accurate, and might have been something that was maybe just like a concept, you know? I feel like the mentor is really like gaining a full embodied experience when it comes to what connection could look like, what love could look like. So I do feel both of these people are learning about this divine love experience with each other. And that a divine love doesn't have a set way, but there are certain principles to divine love that are always present, you know? The divine love has certain principles that you can't violate. And so both these two have been brought together to experience this sort of more spiritual love. And I do feel like there is a lot of love between these two energetically, and maybe not necessarily physically when it comes to, you know, the 3D sort of physical interaction with these two. And I do feel like both of these people are learning about love of self, first and foremost, in a way here through the love of each other. And I think they're both bringing out the best of each other. Although they are bringing out the shadow, it's like the best of each other, because they're both being asked to reach their potential. They're both being asked to think outside of how they normally see things. And I think the mystic, like I said, is challenged here by the mentor, is being called by the mentor, is being shown by the mentor, by example, that this mentor could understand and get deep with this mystic, although this mystic already wrote off relationship or people being able to understand and get deep with them. And I feel like the mystic's intuition has been blocked as well for some time. They might have, there's a spiritual, deep intuition and side to this mystic that I think is offline for quite some time. And it's being woken up by this dynamic, but this mystic must sort of reach a certain state of healing or seeing themselves. I think the mentor could even at some point experience, definitely a lot of turmoil here with the mystic, but even the mentor might have to leave, might have to leave this dynamic, might have to create space between them and this mystic, because at times it could be very intense. It could be a very consuming. It could take a lot of this mentor's sort of energy. Also, I feel like this mentor might have had to blow up their old world, definitely their old thought structure, paradigm, and beliefs that they might have held on to as far as what a relationship should look like for them or could look like. Because I think everything's been sort of blown up here. So I do feel the mentor has experienced a form of tower in many different ways. But also I think the mentor's lesson might be one of also having to move away from this mystic if the mystic is too destructive, or if the mystic creates too much of this sort of stagnation, that the mentor has no choice but to sort of rise above and move on in some way. And so it's up to the mystic to either rise up or stay stagnant. And I feel like because of the spiritual nature of this connection, it's requiring both of these people to transform and to rise above, and also to keep moving. Because I do feel like, like this is all about movement and growth, that the divine is trying to get these two sort of out of their old worlds. So I feel like both of these people are highly creative, and so they could both be artistic type people, but I feel like they're both just very inspired by one another to create. And I think when both of these people are in their highest sort of form or potential, they're able to create better, and they're able to find their purpose in life a little bit quicker and a little bit more direct and aimed, rather than maybe wandering. Because I do feel like for both of these, their purpose, or what they're really, really sort of good at or aligned with, will become visible to them as a result of becoming their highest potential. Because I do feel this connection. If you don't know this person, okay, if you haven't met this person yet, it's like it's going to be someone later in life, because I do feel like it's the type of connection that's like the last one before you go out, is kind of what it feels like, It's like at the peak of your growth. And so it's like we're now aligned with what we're supposed to do and create, and sort of reach this beautiful pinnacle of who we can be, all that we can be. But I feel like it does have a very rocky start. It has a scary start. I do feel it's fairly intense. And I do feel like the mystic is surrounded by groups of people, or people in general, that the mystic is seeing as sort of gold, like these are gold people, or like pure people, or like golden people, and therefore that's the bar, the level that they understand. Meanwhile, I do feel like these people, again, aren't necessarily all that great for the mystic, or aren't pushing this mystic to reach a potential, and aren't seeing the greatest depths of this mystic. And so they're skewed in their community of who and how and what's good for them. So let's take a look at the tarot and see what I'm missing here. Spirit for the mystic and the mentor. What am I missing here for these two? Clear and concise message for the greatest and highest good of pile number 2. Please protect me and the viewer as I channel this message for the greatest and highest good of pile number 2. Thank you so much, pile 2, for allowing me to tap into your energy, the energy around you at this time. I do feel for some of you guys, this could be, like I said, it feels like the last sort of partnership here when it comes to maybe your final soulmate, you know, or like a spiritual partner here that's going to come together. So these two could build something together, because I feel they are both creators and there's something to be created. Now it could be independent, but for some of you guys, it's like these two will work together to build something. Like build something as in like a business or like an art project. They might inspire each other to develop something here amongst the two of them. The star in reverse, Aquarius energy. Spirit for pile number 2. Can we dive into this connection a little deeper? What's going on here between the mystic and the mentor, person A and B, in this dynamic that the viewer is needing to hear? Thank you. All right. Knight of Swords. Oopsie. The King of Swords. So we have Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. The Ace of Wands. The Butterfly. And we have the Seven of Wands, the Page of Pentacles, and the Eight of Pentacles. What's under the Knight of Swords? The Five of Pentacles in reverse. Okay, let me see. Hermit, Virgo energy. Okay, let me just sit here with this energy. I feel like there's a heavy emphasis in this reading about this mystic person sort of being at a place where they've given up on anything greater than that in which they're experiencing, which is quite sad, because I feel like the bar is a little low here. And it also wasn't allowing the mystic to reach its highest potential, their highest potential, and transform. And so I feel like this mystic person might have been sold on life being sort of cold and dry and giving up on ever having anything very deep, spiritual, meaningful, and the ideal sort of vision of a partner or a dream that they could have. It's like, I could have this or I could have that. It's like they stopped believing in what they could have, and they just sort of started doing, I don't know, like just staying stagnant is what it seems like. And so the awakening here was to awaken this mystic's ability to connect to the divine nature within them and their healing capabilities, awaken to their highest potential, and see all this other stuff here in their intuition so they could transform. And I feel like this is what is presented by these two, is this opportunity for this mystic to be able to explore this and know themselves even deeper by it being reflected by another here. And I feel like, yeah, any sort of energy that this mystic has been in, or they've given up, or it's not out there, is something that is now being challenged. It's like, are you sure? There is someone here who can give to you exactly that in which you said it couldn't come or wouldn't come, or that other people might not see or have. Because I do feel like the mystic might have put a lot of emphasis then on just their own sort of ability to stay out of connection, you know, like King of Swords is more logical. It's not very emotional, is sort of detached, is a little cold. And this connection is challenging this mystic to become more accepting of wishes coming true and different types of connections that could actually be something that this I want to say this King of Swords, because I do feel like this mystic person is an air sign, is what it seems like to me. but I don't feel like they've always been in their mind so much. I feel like it's been developed over time that this person became more cold, more detached, more about that. And then all of a sudden, here comes this mentor who's firing up this King of Swords energy and challenging them and saying, you could do more, you could be more, you can experience more. And in order to do this, you'll have to heal whatever this belief of yours is, because you've already given up sort of on life here. Or you've given up on relationship in some way here. So I'm going to see some more. Spirit, for pile number 2, what am I missing here? What am I missing? What did this pile 2 need to know about this dynamic? So we have heavy Gemini energy. Okay, we have Virgo, we have Scorpio, we have Leo, we have Aquarius, Pisces, Libra, and Capricorn, Taurus, and Sagittarius energy. Star in reverse again, Aquarius, for pile number 2, 4 of Cups. Yeah, like they've given up on emotional experiences here. It's like Judgment in reverse, 2 of Cups in reverse, and the Ace of Swords in reverse, and the Queen of Swords, and there's the 10 Cups. Is that everything that I'm saying here, you guys? Every single thing. Thank God. I just feel like I'm going crazy in this reading. I was like, what am I reading? So 3 of Cups in reverse. This mystic can only go to 3 Cups. Can't get very deep. Didn't believe in it. Happily ever after, 10 Cups. It's like a fantasy fairy tale. It's never going to happen for me, and I don't believe it. I don't see it, and I always feel like I'm let down, rejected, and I can't see it or accept the fact that there is something more. Don't see it, don't understand it, I've never experienced it, therefore I shut the door, and never again do I ever want to think about it or see it. And now here comes the mentor saying, hello, knock, knock, knock. You're going to see it. Not only are you going to see it, you're going to experience it, because there is great, great love. There is deepness beyond the 3 Cups that you can experience for you. But I feel like this mystic might not believe it. They might be very detached and even make the mentor feel rejected. And I feel the mentor feels rejected, lonely, isolated, and not seen, and could get very upset by this. And I feel like this mentor is also learning, like I said, the truth. The truth, and through the experience that the mentor has, through everything, because I think there's towers, there's shifts, there's a whole bunch of things here that's requiring this mentor, Queen of Swords, to transform as well. Now, this mentor, Queen of Swords, is 2 butterflies, and I felt like the mystic was a King of Swords with 1 butterfly. So I feel like this Queen of Swords mentor, sorry to confuse you, the mentor person, might have to take on several shifts within this dynamic. You know, like 2 phases of self here in some way. But I also feel like the Queen of Swords, which is this mentor, is leading with this mentor energy the transformation of both these individuals. Oh, I see 2 more butterflies here, even in the shadow. Yeah, there's a lot about the truth about becoming the highest potential and what that journey of transformation looks like. And so I think that the mentor sees the light, sees the truth of this connection, sees the truth sooner, is more attuned with what this connection means, like earlier. And I feel like the journey for the mentor is always sort of moving upwards through ascension, through understanding, where there's misbeliefs that could be creating pain and suffering in this dynamic. So just feeling the rejection and the loneliness and the isolation in some way. But this does take a process to work through. Now we're seeing 77, trust in a fall, an adventure that arises from deep wisdom, trust of life, and trust of self. So we saw the Hermit in the other round, which is all about self-knowledge and self-understanding. And I feel like this connection makes both these people go very deep within themselves so that they're able to gain deeper insights. And I feel like the mystic thought that maybe they knew everything, you know, that they needed to know about themselves, and it's just people suck, or like people just can't get close, or I just keep getting disappointed. And now it's like I don't even want to let people in here because I've just always experienced disappointment. So why would I let this mentor in if the mentor is just going to fall short again? And then I've already made peace with the fact that it's not going to happen for me. In fact, the mystic might even have written off relationship, period, like ever, getting close, getting committed, dating anyone, marrying anyone ever again. It's like they already gave up on this. They closed this door. They closed the door, and I feel like this mentor might not understand it. Like, what's wrong with me? Why can't you let me in? What's going on here? But this mystic cannot see the great truth, does not understand, sort of wrote off their future based on a past experience. And so Spirit is saying that this comings together is so that this mystic can reopen the door. So a King of Swords and a Queen of Swords, which to me is talking about divine counterparts that understand each other. They really understand each other. They could speak the same sort of a language when it comes to, and this doesn't have to necessarily mean like words so much as it is language of energy. They understand one another. They understand why one might pull away or do what they do or say what they say or engage how they engage, even when they're not engaging, even when they're silent, even when there's subtle sort of things going on with the other. They understand each other very deeply here. Okay, but I think this is where the pain is, because I feel this mentor doesn't understand then why it is that this mystic is rejecting or closing, shutting them out, And it's mostly because this mystic still is misunderstood in the truth of who they are and what they're about, and that they put too much weight on what they have experienced already as the bar, which hasn't been all that high, if I got to be honest, and this mystic sees it as such a high bar here. So like I said, they might put a lot of value in like friends, partying and social gatherings and networks and just really more shallowy stuff where it's like, well, I don't want to experience a 2 cups here if I'm just going to be let down and not understood. And it hurts more when we're rejected or disappointed in a 2 cups than it does in a social setting, because then we just move on to other friends and it doesn't hurt as deep. And so this is a coping way of not getting hurt very deep. And then thinking that we know, but we don't know shit. And so I feel this mystic doesn't know shit. And underneath all that was coming this healing ability that this mystic could have to connect to the divine in a way that could be a healing presence here to the collective, and really tap into this intuition, which means this mystic could definitely have psychic abilities as well as healing abilities. Empress in reverse. And so they're learning about this divine love, okay? Mystical love, divine love, spiritual love. This Empress in reverse could definitely mean that both these people are having to see what it is to love self and then apply that to how do we love other. Okay, and so Empress is all abundant, knows self-worth, is able to lay boundaries, and there could be a lot of mother wounds here, like challenge with feelings and opening up and that sort of thing, and it could be experienced on both sides. It's like, how do I give from a place of unconditional love here? That's true, that's divine, that's spiritual, that accepts, that doesn't feel rejected or rejects. Because I do feel like the mentor could have been criticizing this situation and even carrying the burden of the judgment on themselves. Like, I'm not good enough, or I can't do good in the eyes of the mystic because the mystic's rejecting me or not seeing me or not letting me in, or only sort of wants this 3 cups shallowness here, or is like, doesn't see my value. And so the mentor was having to understand their own value and also to rise above to see that they could experience 10 cups within their world. But if they don't have a good, clear understanding of what a 10 cups actually is, because they haven't been able to reach their full Empress energy, then they don't see the truth of who they are and what they deserve. And so this connection is allowing this mentor to see the truth, what they deserve, what they could build, what emotional depth could mean for them, and what it looks like, And I do feel it's through this difficult challenge here. I also feel like there is although we both have the King and the Queen of Swords, I think these two are very deep, deep thinkers. I feel like there's challenge here when it comes to communicating truths. And I think it takes a while for these two to see eye to eye, because I do feel like there's a lot of silence and waiting for the stars to align, you know? It's like it's not time yet. And so these two might have met when the timing wasn't sort of right, although it is right because it was creating all of the stage for this connection. But it might feel as though the timing was off, because I do feel like healing still hasn't been done. And it needed to be done, and there needed to be a meeting of the minds so that they could speak truth and see clarity and claim this connection or claim each other. I feel like there's a need to claim, and there's no claiming happening here, you know, because there needs to be a healing first, and there needs to be an undoing of some sort of false narrative that I will never love again, I will never marry again, connection isn't for me, and I'm so misunderstood here, nobody will ever really get the depths of me, and so I might as well shut it out. But again, coping mechanism. So the mystic is being asked to submit to the divine when it comes to themselves, but the divine nature of this connection, which will allow them to be able to give love to themselves and to others without resisting. So pile number 2, this is your reading. I hope this made sense, and I will see you at the next one. Bye-bye. Pile number 3, you guys picked the hummingbird and the bluebird here. Absolutely gorgeous. Let's take a look at this reading, shall we? So we have person A versus person B, and this is going to be either a current or future destined soulmate, soul partner, soul connection, something that is quite significant in this lifetime for you and your destined path. Okay, so this could be really anyone, doesn't have to be a lover or romantic relationship. It's whoever's sort of impacting your lifetime. And it's been quite interesting, the energy so far, I must admit. Very difficult for me to read for some reason. So I don't know why that is, but you're either going to resonate with person A or person B. Okay, if you don't resonate with A or B, then it's not your pile. It might not even be your reading. So just, you could check out whatever pile you feel you resonate with, one side being your energy, and then the other person is on the other side. Don't peg it to who you think it's going to be. It could be someone you haven't met. Okay, so let's take a look. Person A, the gem, 56. You're like, that's me. That's my side. I'm the gem. I'm the prize. 56. I'm just teasing. 11. And then we have inner call, 17 and 8. Vulnerability, sensitivity versus power, compassion, justice, gentleness, emotions, depth, anger management. Type 8, the challenger, instinctive center between strength and weakness. Oops, with inner call. Interesting. A lot of beautiful, pure energy I'm getting from this side. And we have 103 and 4, profound love, healthy growth level. It says sensitive love, intuitive love, subtle love, original love, creative love, introspective love. Type 4, the individualist, emotional center between lack and abundance. All right. And then we have denial, 35 and 8, defense mechanism, ego level, reality, denial. Disapproval, refute, negation, avoidance, refusal of weakness. Type 8, the challenger, instinctive center between strength and weakness. 35 and 8. All right. Where should that go? Right there. Let's look at person B. We have the Bordeaux, number 50 or 5. And then we have weak, as in time span. So 12 and 3, it says, in the near future, shortly, nearly, soon, almost, long before or long. Type 3, the achiever, emotional center between appearing and authenticity with temporality, ego level. All right, and then we have baptism, spiritual practice, 45 and 9. Contemplative prayer, spiritual singing, Tai Chi, mindfulness, meditation in nature, repetition of mantras. Type 9, the peacemaker, instinctive center between forgetting and asserting oneself. Interesting. 2 shades of yellow here. And we have suspicion, generalized mistrust, tracking trend, lies, paranoia, hidden things, duty to monitor. Type 6, the loyalist, thinking centered between mistrust and trust, 69 and 6, with collective plague stress level. All right. Interesting. Now, shared energy. We have dissolution, number 65 and 11. We have within a few weeks. Oh my goodness, you guys, we're getting timing for some reason here. Well, these aren't timing cards per se. I do feel it's talking about something within timeline here. And then we have mystical union, 91 and 1, appeasement, tolerance of benevolence, open-mindedness, letting go, gentleness, multiple truths, imperfection, acceptance. Type 1, the perfectionist, instinctive center between control and letting go. And we have 26 and 8, physical activity, place and activity, ego level, physical effort, competition, sports club, tournament, active leisure, body occupancy. Type 8, the challenger, instinctive center between strength and weakness. Okay, and then we have confusion. All right, interesting energy. Let me tap into this and see what comes through here. Okay, you can skip ahead. Okay, this is interesting energy. Spirits are really making me channel crazy through all this crazy energy. Okay, so you're either going to be the gem or the bardo. Okay, if you're neither side, then this is not your pile. You can go check out another one. If you feel you're on both sides, it could be mirroring between you and this person, okay, but you're going to resonate mostly with one side in your energy. So this gem person, this is a really nice energy, okay? It really is a nice energy. I think the gem doesn't see the full beauty of the gem at all. And I do feel like the environment of the gem could be one that doesn't allow this gem necessarily to be recognized for all the wonderful things that the gem can do and is about. Okay, because I do feel like the gem is in an environment that is misaligned for them, and that I do feel like the gem might even have many different skill sets, many different traits, many different potential abilities to be a whole bunch of wonderful things that hasn't yet been experienced. They haven't been challenged. They have been maybe even like just watered down in their environment or their energy, or people around them don't really require them to push them to do anything outside of maybe what they have been doing here in some capacity. I feel like there is a part of the gem person that hasn't been experienced within the gem's world yet, that allows the gem to get a very deep and experience very profound connection. Okay, and I feel like the gem is being introduced to this bardo person here in order for them to see all sides of themselves, different aspects of themselves that might be highlighted depending on their environment, reflecting back to them who they are. And I feel like this connection could reflect back to this gem, certain parts of this gem that they haven't ever seen or understood before, parts of them that they wouldn't even say it was within them, because I think they were really removed or disconnected from experiencing all of that. So there's newfound energy, I feel, within the gem that's always sort of been there, but that the gem didn't realize was there. It was dormant. It was non-existent. It wasn't shining in their environment here. I feel like this bardo person could make this gem person feel seen and make the gem person feel about themselves in a certain way that I don't think that this gem person has ever felt before in anyone's presence. And I do feel there's this humility coming from the gem as well. I also feel like the gem could be somebody who could develop their psychic abilities with all this purple that's coming through, or their connection through the divine gets sort of awakened here through this awakening of sorts, or this more profound, deep connection to their emotions and to the depth of who they are. It's like, whoa, I didn't know all these things were within me. So I feel like there's a bunch here when it comes to emotions, but also the gem's ability to do things. So maybe they take up a new skill, a new hobby, a new talent, or something that they realize within them that they've always had that they haven't been doing. And I do feel like both of these could certainly meet in an environment that's commonly shared, but doing something like this as a physical activity. So I don't know, like playing a sport, or boating came through here. These people are horse riding at a club, but like a community club or a sports club, or some form of like even maybe child sports teams, active leisure, it says here. I feel like these two lives, okay, the gem and the Bardo, actually begin sort of when they meet each other in some way here, like in the 3D. I think there are 3D desires of what they want to do physically. Oh my goodness, now my throat chakra totally closed. That was weird. I'm just going to wait for it to open back up. That was really weird, you guys. It just completely, I felt it go super tight. So the physical thing, it's like their life begins. Like I don't know how to say it, let me just channel. I know it's kind of jumping all over the place. I feel like this Bardo person, okay, could definitely be in a in-between space. They might have had an old life, they might have moved towns, or they might have had a divorce, or they might have experienced one part of their world, and then they're in this liminal space of like not in the new. And I think that they're here when these two meet. It's like maybe they're mourning the death of a spouse. Maybe they're just fresh off a separation or a divorce. Maybe they've moved from where they grew up and now they're in a new town or something like this. And so there is this space where they're not quite able to just like embrace the new yet, but at the same time, the old is done and over with. So it's like both of these people are in environments that are being released and dissolved. And I feel like we're even getting this week, because I feel like Spirit is talking about whether there's two things coming through. If you know this person, this is talking about a timeline from when you read this, watch this reading. Oh my goodness, Linda, get it together, woman. From when you watch this reading, a week from this, okay, there is something in regards to something shifting quite profoundly here. That the confusion exists because there needs to be a dissolution of everything that was surrounding both of these people. The gem has an environment that is watering down this gem's ability to see all these great facets of the gem. The gem can't shine in that environment, and there needs to be a dissolution of this. So it needs to be finalized. You're like seen and worked through. Okay, and this is talking about within a week, and I feel like the timing for these two are in sync, because the Bardo also is going to take this week to sort of, because the ending has sort of happened here, but they're in this middle ground space. Okay, And so in a week, it's like this person is now able to enjoy with this physical activity what is in the new here and embrace it. But I feel like if you haven't met this person, it's talking about the period of time it's going to take. Sitting in the confusion, sitting in the dissolution, okay, that it's going to take some time. And that once this finalization happens of the old and the liminal space of the healing or whatever is happening, in order for there to be acceptance of taking physical reins in each other's lives, it will happen after being in this liminal space, okay, within, it says, a week. So I feel like there's the dissolution, however long the dissolution takes, and then they're sitting in the liminal space and coming to terms with whatever this is. And then there is these people being on the same page when it comes to having to close out old chapter, and the pause of a week, and then them being able to sort of come together here with this physical activity, because I'm really seeing the 3D coming together, being on the same page in the 3D, you know, being in the body, not being, so if this is like an energetic spiritual connection, if this is something that hasn't sort of come together, these two will come together, but there's a need to sort of sort through all of this other stuff that has nothing to do with each other. I feel like both of these people, we'll see birds here, because I do feel like, these people are always constantly in communication. There's communication between these two, and I don't know what sort of format, okay? This could be telepathic communication. This could be constant, in communication, because I do feel like these two are sort of nurturing each other throughout this process. Now, I do feel like the Bardo is like experience sadness, and it does feel more like dark death sort of energy here. So that's why I said probably lost like a loved one, or like a divorce or separation, something that feels very heavy in mourning. Whereas I feel the gem is just surrounded by misaligned things that maybe the gem grew out of, or maybe that the gem wasn't appreciated or seen or valued in their environment. And I think that these two see the greatness in each other. I feel like the Bardo is totally like I'm seeing the pupil sort of getting larger and larger, because I think the Bardo really likes what they see in this gem person, is really called and pulled to the beauty of this gem. And I think the Bardo sees in the gem all of this beauty that the gem might have not have seen within themselves. And so I feel that the gem catches the Bardo's eye, is how it goes. And I don't necessarily know if the Bardo is able to communicate, because I feel like there is a lot of talk, but I don't feel like there's a lot of cutting through the confusion until the dissolution of what needs to sort of fall away falls away. So I do feel like there's towers that these two are experiencing in their world and are needing to experience. And throughout that period of time, there's a lot of confusion, because it's like, well, where does that put us? Where do we stand? How do these two engage with each other? There's a lot of this sort of uncertainty, confusion that happens. Now, I do feel like there is old environments that must be completely sort of dealt with in order for these two to physically sort of move on to new relationship with each other, because this definitely does feel like a relationship reading of like lovers, partnership. And the gem could certainly be in an energy of having to see things completely differently, potentially, that maybe they haven't seen in the past, such as multiple truths can exist. They might have a harder time sort of letting go of what's familiar and comfortable. Whereas I feel the Bardo has already maybe let go, but is just in an in-between sort of phase, like it feels very cold. It feels very lonely here. I feel like the Bardo is being initiated here and being sort of reborn here into a new phase to experience relationship. But I feel like because the Bardo experienced disappointment, loss, is sort of cautious here with the suspicion. And I don't think they're thinking that the gem's lying or suspicious. It's just that this Bardo has great suspicion on how to start over. Do I start over? What does that look like? What does it require from me? And I feel like all of this doubt and sort of need to understand this part takes time. And it might create a lot of confusion here and then the dynamic between these two, because the gem might not understand, well, what does the Bardo want then? Because the Bardo is clearly showing signs of interest. The Bardo is taken aback, is seeing this gem's beauty. I think both these people make each other feel very seen, like the sides of them that other people didn't really acknowledge or see as beneficial or beautiful, or their strengths are identified by their unique differences that they might have at one time hid, being I'm too different, or my differences are what people don't like. But with each other, it's like they're able to support each other's different sides. I feel like there's an attraction towards this. Yeah. So let's see here. Spirit, for pile 3, what am I missing here in the dynamic between the gem and the Bardo? Clear and concise message for the greatest and highest good of this connection. What do we need to know about these two, the dynamic between A and B, the gem and the Bardo personalities? The Page of Cups and the 9 of Pentacles. And the Sun. The 9 of Wands in reverse, clarified by the 5 of Wands. The Tower. Why is the Sun here? We have the 10 of Wands and the Fool. 10 of Wands in reverse, and the Wheel of Fortune. Under that, we have the Page of Wands in reverse. Let me see. Yeah, I feel like these two are definitely destined to come together. I feel like they both make each other very happy, but I feel like there is certain energy around both these individuals that needs to be put down. And I feel like right before they sort of meet each other or get together, there's like a blow up in their world, It's like a blow up. This dissolution is this Tower, because they had to experience one sort of world in which they had to either shift from because it's no longer working, or in the Bardo's case, it blew up because of maybe it just didn't work, either through a death, like I said, or like a divorce or separation. There seems to be, like I said, a heavy mourning of something that didn't work in the past. And I feel both these people are having to understand themselves individually so that they can create happiness in a partnership. But I feel like the partnership couldn't start from like one sort of one ending to begin the next. Like there had to be a pause, which we're seeing with the week, because I feel like Spirit is saying there needs to be an identifying of individual energies independent of each other here. And I feel like both of these people might have a really hard time sort of surrendering to that in which they're needing to surrender in order to start new. I feel like there's a lot of like the confusion here. I'm feeling with this 5 wands. It's like there's still residue of the past and things of the past that could impact this dynamic if they don't fully release and surrender. But I do feel like happiness is from the start with these two, and they could find happiness together. But only when they sort of put down and release everything that was sort of holding them stuck to the past, so that they could take a chance on each other here, baggage free. This is all about being a baggage free sort of connection, but not jumping from one to another without sort of doing the understanding of one's own strengths and having the confidence to say, I can love again, or I could be present again, or I'm confident to show up and I can trust without suspicion or without, like just trust to leap here. So I feel like the biggest hang up with these two is about getting clear, cutting through the confusion, dropping the past that's been burdensome and heavy, that might be very difficult to let go of or accept, especially, like I said, the gem might have a harder time accepting some form of loss or some form of surrender, of letting go of the past that isn't working. And I do feel like during this time, there could be conflict between these two in a way of disagreements or not understanding why they can't come together, But I do feel there's a constant communication. And Spirit is talking about them finally being in divine timing and finally getting on the same page and things finally moving where they can explore where they couldn't. But it's almost like the divine, stopped these two from exploring and getting together physically here. Now, I'm getting another message. If these two haven't met physically, which I'm sure you guys probably already clicked away, Spirit is talking about after this whole process, there's going to be like that pause period with this week that we're seeing here. Once the closure happens, and I feel like the gem has to get out of in denial here of whatever situation they're in. After that, there's a week of sort of gathering oneself, because I feel like this process has been underway for quite some time. So it's not just a week and done. It's like through a long period of time, this gem has to break out of this denial energy. And once they're independent on their own, sort of broken free, it's going to take a week here for them to then physically come into some sort of togetherness or union with this Bardo. And the Bardo as well, because there's a mourning process here that they're going to have to sort of adjust to, because they're sitting in the liminal space. And once they decide to move out of this and be completely sort of baggage free, drop any suspicion or doubt or any sort of heaviness that they might be carrying of the past baggage, to surrender so that they can make room for this gem. Then the divine says it's time for these two to get together. But until then, there's an inability to be available. There's an inability for these two to experience each other, but the potential is sky's the limit here for the two of them. All right, so yeah, this is it. Pile number 3. This is your reading. I hope this resonated for you guys. Interesting reading. We have Aquarius and Leo here. I'll see you guys at the next one. Bye-bye. Pile number 4. You guys picked the key. I feel like sleeping doing these readings. I don't know why. They just seem very, making me very sleepy. So we have person A, and then we have person B. And the shared energy. So what we're looking at is your current / future, whichever it happens to be, soul partner, destined person that's going to create massive change in your world. Okay, so who is this person? This might be someone you're not expecting to see. In this lifetime, there could be someone who creates profound change for you and for them. And we'll see who you are and who this person is on either side. So if you don't resonate with A or B, then this isn't your pile, okay? So let's take a look. Person A, then we have Gnosis 75. My goodness. And we have Abandonment 58 and 4. Being forgotten, being left, orphaned, desertion, feeling ignored, being withdrawn. Type 4, the individualist, emotional center between lack and abundance. Fundamental injury, stress level. And we have perfection, excellency, integrity, rigor, worth, honesty, righteousness. Type 1, the perfectionist, instinctive center between control and letting go. Compulsion, ideal, ego level 1. And we have meditation, 41 and 5, spiritual practice, ego level. Meditation on the heart, quiet observation, retreat, visualization, spiritual reading, spiritual study group. Type 5, the observer, thinking center between interior and exterior. Person B, we have the mirror, 68. And we have mental loneliness, 77 and 5. Intellectual disillusionment, emotional detachment, feeling of emptiness, lack of understanding, exasperated isolation, knowledge disinterest. Type 5, the observer, thinking center between interior and exterior. Dark night of the soul, stress level. Oh my goodness. So 77 is a master number. Trust the fall and adventure that arises from deep wisdom, trust of life and trust of self. We have 36 and 9, anesthesia, self-disconnection, intensity, numbness, obscuration, suffocation, self-forgetfulness. Type 9, the peacemaker, instinctive center between forgetting and asserting oneself. Defense mechanism, ego level. 36 and 9. And we have 66 and 3, appearances, getting noticed, showing off, parading, dazzling, flashiness, loves to impress. Type 3, the achiever, emotional center between appearance and authenticity. Relationship trap, stress level. 66 is a master number. Service as a source of joy, in which one pours from an overflowing cup, not martyrdom. 2 different shades of yellow here. Interesting. So, shared energy. We have the moon with the number 2. Pisces, Cancer energy coming through. We have loss of identity, 81. Dark night of the soul. Internal restlessness, desire to escape, apathy, disorientation, internal conflicts, intense emotions. Type 9, the peacemaker, instinctive center between forgetting and asserting oneself. And we have 17 and 8, day. In the short run, just now, in a jiffy, shortly, instantly, very soon. Type 8, the challenger, instinctive center between strength and weakness, temporality, ego level. 17 and 8, and abundance. Oh my goodness, look at all this yellow. And pain. Oh my goodness. Seeing like the paradox, dark night of the soul, we see the sunlight, we see pain, we see abundance, we see loss of identity, and then we see clarity. We see moon and sun. So this is very, very interesting. Okay, let me sit here with this energy. Okay, interesting. I don't know if I'm just seeing like certain aspects of these relationships that are pulled through here, because I'm seeing just really, it seems very, one aspect D is kind of what it seems like. Doesn't seem super, super deep, although this is very, very, very profound here for sure. Okay, so we have Aries and Scorpio, Gemini, Virgo, and Taurus, Sagittarius, Cancer, Pisces, Leo, Aquarius, and Libra. Okay, so let's see. There is the Gnosis person and the mirror. So if you don't resonate with either side, then this isn't your pile. I feel like the Gnosis person is very high level. Okay, when I say high level, I'm not tearing anyone, but the Gnosis is the all-knowing. An all-knowing. And the only way we could become sort of this knowing type of person, okay, of course, we're not the divine source, so we're never going to know every single possible thing ever known to man. Although this knowing is the true depths of knowing of who the Gnosis person is. And once we truly understand ourselves, we can truly understand other. When we understand ourselves, we understand the universe, how the universe works, you know? There's something about the Gnosis sort of having this profound insight about who they are and of themselves, which I don't necessarily think this Gnosis person was born this way, okay? We could have been. I say we, suddenly it's me too. Linda's funny. So this gnosis, okay, is a knowing. And we get here through what? Through severe pain, through dark night of the soul, through confusion, through tapping into intuition, through dealing with subconscious. This whole connection is one of enlightenment, okay? Seeing clearly, being in present moment, knowing, like inner knowing, embodiment, through experience, spiritual experience, not through just an intellectual knowing, which we always talk about here, okay? So I feel like the gnosis person has gone through some spiritual development already. So I don't know, okay, this most likely will probably be you, okay? I don't want to attribute it, but is most likely you and your energy if you're here. Okay, now this could be somebody that's you don't know yet, or it could be somebody who's sort of triggered this. And I'm seeing the mirror, so it certainly could be someone who's triggered this revelation or this enlightenment, okay? I feel like the gnosis person here had to work through the biggest challenge, which is the abandonment wounds that were stored in the subconscious. And I feel like it's abandoning even who they themselves were, like not knowing themselves, having to come back to knowing who they are, releasing the idea of who they had to be, what perfect means, whatever bar they had of how they had to be and how they had to show up and all of this type of stuff. And so I'm seeing 5, which is Hierophant, which is this idea of what society or upbringing told them that they should be and have to be. Okay, and so I do feel like gnosis is highly spiritual here. With this meditation and this day, I'm feeling it's like being present, being enlightened, being totally tapped into the divine. We're also seeing purple, which is highly spiritual, with the intuition, most likely very psychic, most likely very balanced and very spiritually ascended here is what I'm feeling, okay? But I do feel like it's been through a process that's been very, very difficult and most likely mirrored by the mirror person here. Now, I don't know yet because I haven't channeled this mirror person yet, but if it's someone that's coming in, it could be because this gnosis person is in a certain vibration here. And so this is why I feel like maybe I'm reading very current, sort of present energy, because I do feel there's been a history, a history of how this gnosis person became the gnosis person. Okay, and so I do feel like, ironically, when we accept our imperfections and our challenges, do we then become sort of perfectly imperfect? I feel like the gnosis person is getting to the state where they could be completely at ease with who they are and what they're about and release everything else, which brings them more into balance, more into knowing, more in tune with the universe, so that they can be more present in their manifestations, their acceptance, and living their life without it being a perpetual sort of shadow work, sort of need to heal, need to ascend type energy. It's like, let me live, let me embody, let me learn through experience. And so I feel like the gnosis person is in a state of learning from the universe through a very painful process of having to find self and work through abandonment wounds here, and feeling most likely very ignored by the universe, by relationship, something like this, And so the only thing that's also coming through here for this gnosis is to be cautious of any sort of righteousness or spiritual bypassing that might happen here. And so gnosis is being called to sort of maintain a spiritual practice here that keeps them humble and keeps them grounded and keeps them in line with spirit. Okay, we haven't talked about the sharing sort of the connection. Let's go to mirror. The mirror person here is the lows of the lows. And I feel like the lows of the lows, when I read this card, this is probably the saddest card I've ever read. And I'm not trying to make you feel sad, but it seemed like in every single area possible, this person's feeling completely shut down, abandoned, and detached from, isolated from. Intellectual disillusionment. So I know nothing. Emotional detachment. I feel nothing. Feeling of emptiness. I am nothing. Lack of understanding. I know nothing. I don't know why this is happening. I have no desire to understand any of this. Exasperated isolation. I feel depressed, alone. abandoned by myself, like no one cares, and knowledge disinterest. And now I don't even care to find out. Like that's the mega package of shoot me now, you know? And so this person has lost themselves. And I feel like these two people sort of need each other. And I'm not seeing in a codependent type way. Although obviously this mirror does seem like there needs to be some form of great healing that I feel this Gnosis person was able to work through. And so the mirror is going to see parts of themselves in this Gnosis that only through recognizing this type of a strong energy can this mirror person actually find some form of salvation within self. Because this feels almost like divine intervention. This almost feels like someone at the end, you know, like right at the end, like forgetting everything that is divine within them. And I feel like this person, this mirror person, is not knowing what they can do or should do here, because the only go-to that they do know is very superficial. You know, it's like how I look for another is going to determine how another sees me and my value. So if I'm like this, then I'm obviously worthy of nothing here. And so how can I look in a certain way? And so they're very concerned with appearing in a way here that only in this connection though, because mind you, this person is already said knowledge disinterest. Like they're not even wanting to impress anyone or anything. They've given up already. But I feel like in this connection, there's a desire to appear in a certain way. I don't want to be this depressed looking person or this person who has abandoned myself or is like over the edge here. And so I feel like this Gnosis person can really see something in this mirror person that's being reflected as to the pain. This disconnection that the Gnosis had of self, because they had to find themselves and go through the Hermit's journey, which is this Gnosis card. The pilgrimage of finding oneself and everything that this Gnosis learned on the way. They can now see within this mirror person is alive. The essence is alive here. And it's like, I see this mirror suffering. I see this mirror doesn't understand who they are or what they're about here. And so I feel like, I don't know if the Gnosis went through this sort of transformation outside of this connection. I don't think so, though. I feel like these two might be in a very long-term sort of exchange of energy, where the Gnosis had to get to the Gnosis through knowing this mirror, through the transformation of the dark night of the soul, go through the pain, lose their identity, find themselves, reach the state of enlightenment, if you will, or peace or happiness, be in present moment, go through the unknown, tap into their intuition, become that in which was a whole ordeal unto themselves because of the unruliness of this mirror person who is at the verge of some catastrophe here, you know, very catastrophe. I could say here that this Gnosis saved this mirror from offing themselves, or from being in the deepest hole here that they could never get out of. And I feel like the mirror wants to be loved, as we all do. And I think this mirror would love nothing more than to have the appreciation of the Gnosis through a genuine way. But I feel like this mirror might feel like it's all fake, you know? Fake as in, I have nothing sort of to show. I have nothing that is worthy here. And so therefore, everything that this Gnosis sees in me is something that might be not me. It's something that's the fake me, or just the false me, or some version of me that I'm just fronting. It's just a front. It's a front, because if they were to see the true version of me, then the Gnosis would just not be interested at all. And so I do feel like the mirror could numb themselves through a whole facet of unhealthy things, you know? And it's like they just want to lose themselves. They just want to forget themselves. And it's like this Gnosis is like, I see you. And this mirror is like, no, what you see is actually not me at all, because you're probably seeing like some version that now I've become, that even they don't see themselves clearly. And they're always around this type of an energy of themselves. And so they start to believe this is me. And so either the gnosis knows of this, which who would be interested in this, or the gnosis is falling in love with me because I'm such a great actor here of a way that I want them to see me. But either which way, none of this feels right, because they know intuitively that they're not their pain, and they're not this disappointment, and they're not all of this disconnection, and they're not all this heaviness and this numbness. And they're also not this identity that they create of this show, this surface person that's just, look at me, that there's something else, but they haven't seen the something else. Why? Because the something else is coming from the subconscious. The something else only comes when they lose the identity of the facade, when they deal with the pain that has created this. They have to sit with this pain. And I feel like that's exactly what this mirror is going to do, because this connection is all about abundance and enlightenment and finding joy and happiness and being in the present moment. And this is the only way to heal suffering, deep pains, subconscious wounds, when we're real with ourselves, when we shine the light on what's not real. And I feel like the loss of identity was all that was not real. Internal conflicts, intense emotions that are coming through the subconscious, painful emotions, apathy, a desire to escape, again, the numbness, and this way that I don't want to deal with anything. All of this stuff, we got to shine the light. And I feel like this gnosis person is coming with shining the light, and that this mirror person has nowhere to look but to themselves, truly and honestly, because I do feel like this mirror does respect and see this gnosis person as being someone truthful or valid. Like the gnosis here seems very powerful in the energy. And so, of course, as someone with this sort of an energy wouldn't come off superficial, wouldn't come off as trying to trick, wouldn't come off as anything other than authenticity. And so the authenticity of this awakened gnosis person, there's no way the mirror could tiptoe around it or have conflict with it. The mirror person has nothing to do except for see themselves truly as they are. This suffering, this pain, this idea that they have of who they are because of the experience of pain has to be looked at and dealt with. And so there's a lot of deep emotions that come through with these two. So I would say that the gnosis, his life's been completely sort of shifted here in a way that we can't even put into words. And this mirror person has essentially been saved, is working through this painful process. And I feel it might have been just in the nick of time here. All right, let's see, Spirit, for pile number 4. What is this that I'm channeling here for the gnosis and the mirror? This connection. The Queen of Cups, compassion, love, beautiful energy. That's also the intuition. The 8 of Cups in reverse. And the 6 Swords. So interesting, because these are kind of saying two different things. One is like stuck in an emotional dissatisfaction. Then this is moving away from anything that creates dissatisfaction. So let's see, how does this play into this reading? Why is this Queen of Cups here? Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces energy. We have the Knight of Cups in reverse. 8 of Cups in reverse, clarified by the Devil. I'm not surprised to see Devil energy here, Capricorn energy. And why is the 6 of Swords here? The Moon. Cancer, Pisces energy. And we have the Chariot, Emperor energy, and the 2 of Wands, and the 6 of Cups in reverse. All right. Give me a second here. This is really sad. And if I was really emotional, I'd probably be crying. And I'm not crying because I'm just really tired. So what's happening? This mirror person, I feel, is this emperor, okay? This emperor was at a crossroads here, and it wasn't pretty, like I said. I feel this gnosis person was a soul contract here in order to wake up this emperor, to move out of that in which they were sitting in, which was a very low vibrational energy, full of unhealthy things going on in that person's world. Mind stories, beliefs of self, addictions, numbness, the whole caboodle I read here. I feel like this emperor / mirror person has had a very difficult time being able to heal, address their own emotions, see their emotions as valid, and move away from challenging situations, almost like they have to stay there and suffer. I think there's a lot of confusion. There's been a lot of fear. There's a lot of the subconscious that is really, really, really coming forward, that is being worked through, that this emperor is finally understanding that they have the ability to have success. They have the ability to move forward. They have the ability to integrate shadow. They have the ability to find balance. They have the power and the confidence to make decisions differently. And I feel like this was something that they could never see or understand in the past because they didn't have the confidence in themselves to even see that there was a choice. But being in the gnosis's presence, being in the present moment of this beautiful energy, they are awakened to their power, that I don't need to be in any situation that isn't emotionally doing it for me, that is unhealthy and that's keeping me chained to unhealthy things, where my emotions are being suppressed, where I can't express how I feel and move forward with my heart, because there's so much love here. And I feel like the gnosis has shown grace and love and compassion as the divine creator would. This is a true, beautiful love here, okay? And so there's love, and there is this ability to understand that we can't go hide under a rock anymore, because the emperor wasn't able to just move on and hide away from the reality of this connection. This emperor kept coming back to this connection. It was like a repeat thing here that this emperor had to deal with. It's contractually obligated, and this is why I said there's certain connections that change our life. And this seems to be one that pulls this emperor out of a very dark place. And I feel this emperor might have created these wounds within themselves, fragmented energy within themselves through experience of unpleasant childhood that's perpetuated into addiction, that perpetuated into I can't move on from certain situations that I've experienced, loss, divorce, bad friendships, things with the family that it didn't go well, you know. And then all I remember is my experiences of the past that I start to say is who I am and why I deserve that experience. And then when someone comes in here full of love, full of light, full of compassion, full of warmth, I can't help but see that I am worthy of this and that I have the ability to find myself. And so I feel this emperor is amidst shadow integration, amidst dealing with fears, amidst moving on from devilly things. And it's been quite the journey here, I feel. Okay, now I do want to put a little... Oh, look, the tower stayed here from the last reading. Is it hidden here? Look at this tower was hidden here. It was like, boom. And this is in reverse, because I do feel like if we don't have to explore the demolition of anything, then we wouldn't. But I feel like there is this explosion. The loss of identity is really this like explosion of what doesn't work in our world. And so we have no choice but to figure it out and put our pieces back together, like our true pieces. And I'm seeing shards of mirrors. So it's like the false self is exploded into a million different pieces here. I don't know where that tower came from. Interesting. It might have just been two cards there. So what I wanted to insert here was This isn't talking about loving someone so much that we suffer, you know? No, that's not love. That's codependent. This is truly about when we're in a state of truly understanding that how the divine and the universe is always loving, never puts anyone out of their heart, and is able to completely come from that of love. It shifts, it moves mountains here. It's not about loving someone staying there suffering. That's not love. This is about being completely in line with truth, completely seeing one's essence beyond all of the stuff that one might start to believe of themselves that isn't true because of all of the suffering, all of the loneliness. The mirror has pushed people away here. Okay, so let's see. Spirits, can we close this reading? We have the Lovers. Gemini energy. Destined connection here between these two. Eight of Wands. A breakthrough. Communication. Movement. The Hierophant. Commitment. Higher levels of understanding and lessons learned. Structure. Order. Tradition. Strength. Courage. Could be ego. Leo energy, Gemini energy, Taurus energy, the Sun in reverse, ego death, enlightenment, inner child healing, clarity, warmth, contentment, and we have the Page of Cups in reverse, blocked heart chakra, a Three of Wands, moving out of this, and a Four of Wands in reverse. Union, celebration, coming together, and then the world. So, 3, then 4. Beautiful people, what a way to end this reading. This is the most profound reading I think I've done on a spiritual connection, although I didn't do it any justice because I couldn't go very deep with my energy. This is as best as you're going to get with me today. Okay, so the Lover's path is a destined experience. It's our dharmic path. It's the person we're supposed to encounter in order to create profound change. We could either go down that path with our free will or use our free will to stay put and stay little and take our own life. You know, these two have been divinely brought together to choose love, to move forward in love, to create commitments and come together. These two haven't come together yet. It hasn't been solidified yet. And there's no commitment here yet in the physical. It's coming. It's moving towards this direction. This is the expansion these two are having. They're closing out major cycle, where I think the gnosis is someone completely different than when they most likely met to this mirror person. They're this gnosis. In fact, I should read this gnosis to you guys so you guys can understand. Okay, and I feel like both these people were having to work through their ego, or having to work through their courage and strength to be able to persevere and move forward. Move forward. And like I said, it doesn't mean cling to each other, meaning moving forward despite heaviness, challenge, pain, suffering, confusion, loss of identity, the tower, boom, everything. I think the kitchen sink and everything's got thrown into the mix in this connection completely. Okay? Why? Because that was the only way for egos to fall. That was the only way for us to see what truly makes us happy. That was the only way to reach a state of enlightenment, to be in the present moment. Because suffering, we can't have no more. We know what it's like to choose fear. We know what it's like not to be courageous enough to stand in truth and love. And that love looks a different way when we understand it from the gnosis perspective. True love is truth. True love sometimes hurts because sometimes it's doing what we don't want to do. But it's the right thing to do. And so I feel like there is the right thing to do, meaning the most aligned thing with the universe and our divine creator. And then there's doing the egoic thing that keeps us small, that keeps us in suffering. And I feel like there's a momentum and movement here in this connection towards closing out old versions of self. And so although this mirror person still seems as though they haven't fully healed this thing, they're well on their way. And I do feel it's from the strength of this mirror person to actually choose love rather than run in fear or run and hide. But I do feel it's through being exposed to this gnosis. And this mirror is being called to open their heart space so that they can experience what it feels like to come together and to live for something greater than that in which they've been experiencing, and give them a sense of wholeness, give them a sense of belonging. And I feel like this mirror person hasn't felt like they were belonging, haven't felt a part of a community, haven't felt loved, haven't felt seen, haven't felt happy. So let's read this gnosis. And what is this? 75? Right here. So, innermost knowing, mystic truths. True knowledge is not found in facts and figures, in scholarly books, or on library shelves. Rather, gnosis points to a deep and timeless archetypical wisdom that arises from the felt experience of having touched the unknown with every one of the senses. Those who are drawn to gnosis find themselves in esoteric studies, likely involving mysticism, alchemy, healing, or perhaps science. Knowing is their calling. Not knowing is their job description. No matter how far the alchemist takes their studies, they come to the ultimate conclusion that facts slip towards mystery, and soon the mystery results in facts. This card signifies a knowing that is life-changing. Once you experience it, you are forever changed and become a guardian of gnosis. The eternal mystery is calling you. Study your passion in the deepest way available to you. When in light, contemplating the mystery, unanswerable questions. When in dark, over-intellectualizing and literalizing, asking others. Go deeper. Bruce Newman's The True Artist Helps the World by Revealing Mystic Truths. This card relates to the riddle and the shapeshifter. All concern themselves with revealing mystic truths. And those who say they don't, those who say they know, don't. Those who say they don't know, no. So, exactly like I said, there's this knowing, but it's like a perfect perfection here, It's like the universe is perfect, everything in divine order. What I don't know, I don't know. There's peace to be had here in this present moment. And the healing energy that offputs, the awakening within this gnosis has awakened the mirror to see some greater truth within themselves. And so I feel like these two have been divinely brought together to find harmony, to find balance, to find union, and to push themselves out of whatever state that they were in. So, lots of lessons. And I feel like this is a divine counterpart connection, like a twin flame. Okay, it feels very guided, very divine, very spiritual, very profound, very almost fairy tale like. All right, so beautiful angels, let me know how this resonated for you guys. I love you guys very much, and I'll see you at the next one. Bye-bye.